Good evening, everybody. Welcome to week 2. Our webinar tonight is on farm and ranch financial analysis. We're happy that you could join us, and we really appreciate all of those folks who could come in at 6:30. Today's speakers are Craig Madsen. Craig spoke last week as well. His business is called Healing Hooves. It's an LLC located in Reardon, Washington. And our second speaker tonight is Ken Hart. He's with the University of Idaho, and he's located in Nez Perce, Idaho. And they'll be speaking tonight on financial planning and financial analysis. I'm Colette D. Phelps, and I'll be your webinar facilitator, and Melissa Lines is the question moderator. So just a quick run through our webinar tips. Please close all of your other programs that are running on your computer. This is going to optimize your experience watching the webinar. Also, please check your sound. If you're running into problems with clarity, you can switch to the call-in number that's provided in your welcome email. And if you are calling in on the phone, just remember to mute your computer sound. There's a question box on the right side of your screen, and you can type in the questions for the speakers. We really encourage you to type questions in as they come to your mind. We will pause several times throughout the presentation to answer questions, and if the questions are already typed in, then Melissa is going to be able to read those to our presenter, and they'll answer back orally. In terms of having any problems or difficulties, Melissa can respond to you privately, and those responses will be highlighted in pink. A green typed in response to a question that you have is showing that that response went to the full audience. I wanted to very quickly review last week's assignments. One was that you set aside about 5 to 8 hours to work on the course, and that you post comments and questions in the Week 1 discussion forum on the course website. So we hope that you have found that a nice place to interact with your fellow participants in this course. If you're having any problems with that, please email Melissa or I and let us know, because that's a really important part of the connection between our presenters during the webinar and between you and your fellow students. We hope that you've been able to gather your financial data in your business or whole farm plans, and tonight you'll see how you're going to be able to use that data in doing several different analyses on your farms. We hope also that you were able to finish the Week 1 assigned readings and at least begin the Week 2 readings, and you've completed the Week 1 assignments. So I'd like to go ahead and move directly into our presentation by Craig Madsen, who's going to be talking about farm and ranch financial analysis and planning.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the webinar this evening, and I hope everyone got through that snowstorm we had last week without any problems. And my wife and I, we were heading back from Minot, North Dakota last week, so we had a little experience getting back from there. It was actually nice. We're back there visiting grandchildren, and we left the cold. But actually, the really cold. It was minus 40 back there with the wind chill when we left, but we got home just fine. And I hope everybody was able to get through that windstorm without any major problems. Looks like we're having another one, a little more storm tonight, but I hope everyone is doing all right with that. Well, I just wanted to do a quick review of kind of what items we're going to cover this evening. If I get these to work here. Tonight, we're going to go over using an actual example of testing a decision. I covered those part last week, but I wanted just to go through an actual example of looking at testing the guidelines, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ken to talk about some financial statements, and then I'll go a little more in depth into to reviewing the holistic managed financial planning. Well, hopefully everybody did have a chance to actually do their assignments, as Colette mentioned, to look at defining your whole and start developing your holistic goal. As I can't really emphasize how important it is to have that your holistic goal or your vision defined. It's really important to have a clear vision of what you want to accomplish, so that you can develop your strategic plan, which ties back to your financial and your marketing plan. And that way you can have built, from that you can build a more sustainable business. So as I mentioned, I want to go through testing a decision. This last, well, it was actually in October, we had a little challenge. A challenge came up about our semi that I used to haul the goats to projects, and we had a little engine problem. I was hoping it was a little engine problem, but actually it turned into a major engine problem. Yeah, so we had a big decision to make, and we had to evaluate whether we wanted to essentially replace the semi that we have or have the engine rebuilt. And now I'm going to use that as an example to go through. I don't know if everybody has their At Home with Holistic Management textbook close by, but if you do, you might turn to page 84, which is a testing record, and that's where it has all the testing guidelines, all the testing questions on there, and you can use that as a way of documenting your decision. And I really recommend that you actually photocopy this, make some copies of this, or scan this, so that you can use it for more than once. So the first testing, essentially, like I said, we have two actions to test. One is to replace the semi, or and the second one is to rebuild the engine. So the first one we're going to look at is we're going to go look at evaluating, testing, and replacing the engine, and essentially actually buying a replacement semi is the first test we're going to go through. And first thing you're going to do as you look at that testing record is you want to define the problem. And essentially what our problem is, we don't have a vehicle to haul the goats out on projects. So we need to deal with that. And the first cause and effect, ask the question, does this action address the root cause of the problem? And well, the replacement would be able us to haul the goats out on projects. So the replacement of the vehicle would pass that test. The weak link social, and this is looking at whether or not this action would cause any potential related to attitude and beliefs, affect the chain of actions. And one of the challenges with this is that as part of our holistic goal, and I forgot to mention that hopefully you did print out our holistic goal, so you can use that as a reference as I go through this as well, because that's really what we're testing this against, is the holistic goal that you have developed, using that as your guide to evaluate these testing questions, testing this action against. And as I mentioned, our holistic goal talks about we want to stay out of debt, and so that's one of the challenges with this, is that we don't really necessarily feel real good about this, because we are having to go into more debt, but it is an unexpected expense. So we do have a line of credit that we can access at a reasonable rate. So it's kind of a plus and minus on that as far as going to passing the weak link social. Biological weak link, it's not applicable. Looking at the financial weak link, and that relates back to we talked last week about the chain of production, whether the weak link is in the resource conversion, the product conversion, or the marketing conversion. And this guy, my Healing Hooves weak link prior to this little incident with the semi was our marketing. But as soon as once that we lost the engine in the semi, well, that really became our weak link, because we no longer had the ability to move those animals out on projects. So our weak link, there's only one weak link, and our weak link changed because of that unforeseen challenge that we came across. So this action of replacement would pass the financial weak link. Marginal reaction, we'll come back to that one later because it comes into play when we're evaluating two decisions. So after we go through all the testing guidelines of each decision, we'll come back to that one and compare the two decisions. And gross profit, which is evaluating enterprises, is not applicable for this decision.